And now, from the great state of Mississauga in Ontario, Canada, it's the Ted Wallachin Podcast. Brought to you by Tom's Place. For the finest in men's fashion, Tom's Place will suit you. And ETP Canada, providing estate administration with ease. ETP Canada. And now, here's Ted.
There's a very good chance that you have heard or seen my next guest, Noah Cappe, either as police chief in Hallmark Channel's The Good Witch, or more than likely as the affable host of Carnival Eats on the Cooking Channel, I think pretty much every day, if not all day long. And now he returns as host of Season 2 of Food Network Canada's Wall of Chefs. Noah Cappe, welcome to the program. Nice to meet you.
What a beautiful introduction. I feel like that I needed a bigger, I should have done one of hey, you know what I mean? Big entrance for the big intro.
And now I should before we move on, as I promised on Twitter, I have to congratulate both you and your wife on your baby girl, Wolfie. Now I guess she's probably 6 or 7 months old now, something like that.
Knocking on the door of 6 months. Yeah, it's 5 and change.
Wow, good for you.
She's just unbelievable. First time parents, and it's we adopted, and it was a unbelievably long, difficult journey. But it's that classic story of every time you look at that little peanut's face, you're just like, man, every moment was worth it.
Yeah.
This is why we did it, and she's changing my life every day.
Did it take like 7 years? Am I right? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, I mean, keeping in mind that obviously COVID kind of popped up in the home stretch, added on probably what ended up being another year or two. But yeah, it was a surprisingly long process. I think so many people at home, before you educate yourself to what's going on in that world, you have those moments of just like, there's so many people that want kids and there's so many kids that need people. So like, how difficult can this be? It's more difficult than just that.
Yeah.
But for good reason.
And her name is Wolfie?
Wolfie. Yeah.
A really cute name. I'm just wondering, where did that come up? How did that come up?
Ted, the viewers, the ratings on this episode are going to explode because I think I've been asked that question so many times and I've never really answered it on social media. It's a bit of a two-pronged kind of answer. I think we had always loved the name Wolfgang. That was something that had kind of been floating around and no connection to food, ironically enough. And when we found out it was a baby girl, that transition of it into kind of Wolfie really felt normal and nice. Also, Carrie's father, his Hebrew name was Wolf. His first name started with a W. Unfortunately, we lost him a few years ago, so it was a really nice way that we were able to kind of tie in that component as well. So a bit of like a personal connection, a bit of a just think it's a really cool, unique name, and it couldn't have fit this little angel any better.
It is. It is great. It's also great when you've got a story behind your name. Like people say, well, like my name's Ted. That was my dad's name, as it turns out. But for some people, well, where'd you get the name Robert? Hell, I don't know. They just gave me the name Robert, and I'm Robert now. But she's got a story she can tell.
Absolutely. It is funny, as we've told people over the last few months, there definitely seems, if you built a graph, it seems that the older the person, when they find out the name, the few more extra moments they need to process. But it kind of lands up in a place where they're like, you know what? I like it. So.
You know what? Wait until she grows up and realizes that her dad used to make a living eating hot dogs and candy floss.
What are you talking about? Used to? What do you mean? What am I not?
Well, are you still doing it, or is the show on hold, or what's the deal?
Well, Carnival Eats.
Yes, that's what I mean. Yes, Carnival Eats.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, they're struggling to get 15,000 people in a stadium for an event. 100,000 people at a state fair. I think we've got another minute.
Well, but down in the States, maybe it's a different story. I don't know. Is there a chance that it will come back, let's say, at one point, or have you just moved on from that project?
You know what? We were able to pop back out on the road at the end of the summer and finish season 9, which ended up taking 2.5 years almost to finish that season.
Wow.
So we're now in this beautiful place where it's like, if we can get that green light, if things can just turn the corner, we're ready to come out kind of charging on season 10. I think the ratings and the people and everybody's spoken, and they're ready for more. I mean, who doesn't like watching somebody else do all the damage to their heart so that you can still enjoy all the good stuff?
I watch the show, honestly, almost on a regular basis because I think it's running every day right now.
I mean,
My
listen,
God,
we all
that
need a
looks.
bacon wrapped pizza in our life.
Yeah, I think to myself, my God, that looks so good. And then other foods, I think to myself, somebody's just doing something just to be the most bizarre and come up with the weirdest thing humanly possible. They can't actually believe anybody's going to eat this. But lo and behold, they do.
That is Carnival Eats. You have cracked the code, my friend.
Wow. Let's go back here and we'll talk. Obviously, we'll talk about Wall of Chefs, which is in season 2 now. But let's go back. You were born and raised in Toronto.
Yeah. Canadian kid, born and raised. It's Toronto's always been home, and it's funny. The last 5-6 years, I've spent so much more time on the road. Upwards of 200 days a year, and I am constantly reminded as to not only how beautiful our country is, but how wonderful the city of Toronto is. We're spoiled rotten, and sometimes you really do have to kind of travel around and go to these other cities to realize how beautiful and diverse and kind of buzzing, and we got a great city. So I'm proud Canadian, born and raised.
Yeah, and you're one of 8 children, is that correct?
Yeah.
Where do you fit on the sliding scale of 1 to 8?
I'm right in the middle. Classic story, right?
Uh-huh.
3 older, 4 younger, that kind of floating in the middle, where one day you do something to get some attention and you realize, whoa, that worked. Let me try to do it again. And then 40 years later, you're an entertainer.
Yeah. And it didn't just happen like that. You studied at Second City. You studied improv at Second City.
Yeah, I've always, since I was a little kid, had a passion for performing. I think there was just all those times and all those situations that make most people horribly nervous and uncomfortable were my safe places. When I was hosting a lot of corporate events and things like that, those moments of standing in front of 500-600 people with 5 minutes to kill on the clock and no script in my hand, it was like, this is the best. So I'm wired in a weird way. Always loved it. Always had a passion for it. And Second City was just such a beautiful fit because you know what, Ted, it's funny. I've said there was a period of time where I was like, I could do keynote speaking and what would my thing be and whatever. And I always thought about doing something about improv and how I think the art of improv is everybody should take a class. Doesn't matter what your job is. Honing the skill of being able to trust your brain and yourself, that you can respond, that you can react, that you can process what somebody says and return that ball is an invaluable skill. So I think everybody should dabble in it a little bit.
And so you went to York University as well in the acting conservatory. Would you say you learned more from Second City, or would you say you learned more at York?
I mean, this is one of those moments where I'm supposed to be boring, just everybody's great and with the team gave 110%. I mean, Ted, I'm a real person. York University for me wasn't the best ride. I didn't connect with that style of learning. I think that the first year of my university career ended, and I remember I went to my parents and I said, that's it, I'm done, I'm not going back for second year. And they were like, yes, you are. So I did. And then at the end of second year, I was like, now for real, I'm done. I'm not going back. Yeah. And they were like, oh, no, you're going back. And I did. But it was halfway through third year where it was just you know what? I want to get out there and get real world experience. Being a tree blowing in the wind and rolling up and down wasn't working for me.
It doesn't work for everybody. Noah Cappe is my guest. He's the host of season 2 of Wall of Chefs. So you can see that on the Food Network Canada. What was your first pro gig?
I started doing musical theater when I was younger. I don't know if you remember when you were a kid, there was a traveling theater group that would come to your school and do a play, and it would be bullying's bad, don't hurt your friends. And it was just always, little life lesson shows. Started doing that when I was 13, and I think it just kind of solidified the fact that I loved it, that I was good at it. And from there, I got an agent around 18, 19. And I remember the first commercial I booked was a Cheerios commercial, and I was a camp counselor. And man, I was just it was so exciting. It was awesome. And from there, just started chipping away. I went through a weird phase where I was getting cast all the time as somebody who was getting shot in everything. I was just like, what is it about me that when I go to casting, they're like, no, that's a face you want to shoot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a wild ride. A lot of scripted stuff, a lot of Hallmark. It's been a journey.
Yeah, and how did the Carnival Eats gig come about? Was it just a great audition, or did somebody see you and say, we want this guy for this kind of show?
You know, it's funny, Ted. I was doing a lot of hosting. I mentioned sort of like corporate events. I went through a period of time where I was a bar and bat mitzvah DJ and like weddings and all that kind of stuff. You know, 3 steps to the right, clap, 3 steps to the left. Who wants a T-shirt? And then started to get a bit older. There was that point where I was like, is it creepy to have a 30-something-year-old doing a bar mitzvah? So I transitioned into corporate, and I remember going to my agent at the time and saying, I'm doing all this hosting, kind of like live events. I'm doing all this acting on camera. I'd love to bring them together and try to host on camera.
Sure.
It feels like that's really my wheelhouse. Second audition she got me in that world was an untitled food project. And I remember walking into the audition and reading the bio about the show. And at the time, I was like a hardcore Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives fan, like everybody. I was marathoning that show all the time. So as soon as I read the bio about Carnival Eats, it was like I felt like I understood it. And I went into the audition, and they gave me a big cupcake. And they were like, just look at the camera, imagine that's a burger, and tell us about it. And I remember I turned to the camera and I was like, we're hanging out at the Hutchinson Town Fair, and I got a double, triple pack, whatever. And I just went. And it was one of those moments where I think it was all like, we agree, this is a good fit. And I've been eating deep fried butter since.
The healthiest dead man on television, ladies and gentlemen, right here.
There's 7 people holding me up right now.
Excellent. They're doing a great job.
Ted and Noah will return shortly.
Hey, it's Ted Wallachin for Tom's Place. Our fall merchandise is starting to arrive, and we've got massive amounts of summer clothing that needs to be cleared. Blowout prices on virtually everything, like designer suits, regularly up to $5.99, now from $167 to $267. Beautiful sports jackets, starting at only $167, and designer dress pants and shirts, all at $67. Check out our deals throughout the store on the very best of designer menswear. Huge savings off our already below retail prices. If you need a suit for an upcoming wedding or any special occasion, we are Toronto's one-stop suit shop. For the finest outfit for every occasion, there is no better time to find the perfect addition to your wardrobe. Tom's Place is open daily, 11 to 6 weekdays, 10 to 5 Saturday, and 12 to 5 on Sunday. Visit Tom's Place, 190 Baldwin in Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you.
Have you been tasked with the role of a state executor, or expected maybe in the future you will be? Well, if so, let me make your life a lot simpler by introducing you to my friend Debbie Stanley. Debbie is the founder of ETP Canada. They specialize in estate administration. Their goal simply is to help Canadian executors understand their role and how to deal with the loved one's estate. Let's face it, there's no school for this, but ETP Canada offers services such as executor support, estate accounting, and they have a new online course called Executor Ready. It's an engaging video designed to make estate administration easier and affordable. And those are 2 comforting thoughts during a stressful time. So call Debbie Stanley at 1-866-309-0387. That's 1-866-309-0387. Or you can get her at info@etpcanada.ca. That's info@etpcanada.ca.
And now back to Ted and Noah Cappe.
You hosted a Great Canadian Cookbook with Lynn Crawford, who's with you on the Wall of Chefs as well. How long did the project run?
Yeah, that was a blast. That was a show that I wish had a little bit more opportunity to find an audience, because it was just a special little 4-part series where Lynn and I traveled around Canada, with this mission of like, what is Canadian food? It's easy to other parts of the world and say what it is, but Canadian food is a lot more than just poutine and maple syrup.
Thank God.
And yeah, and that episode and that series for me was such an eye-opening event, such an eye-opening experience to our country, the people, the food. I had no idea at the time, like Winnipeg has the largest Filipino community outside of the Philippines. It was like, I didn't know that. Who would have guessed that Winnipeg is making like Filipino food as good as anywhere in the world?
Yeah.
That was a really fun project. I love getting a chance to shine a light on our country.
And she's a great woman to work with as well.
Is the best. I mean, listen, I know we're going to talk about Wall of Chefs, but there is a moment on Wall of Chefs where once we've revealed the wall, I talk to our home cooks and I always say, is there anybody on the wall you're excited to see? Anybody you're nervous to see? Lynn Crawford, 4 out of 6 people will say Lynn Crawford. I'm so excited to meet Lynn. I can't wait to cook for Lynn. She is just one of those people that the country's fallen in love with. And Ted, I'm sure she is as wonderful in real life as she is on camera. She's just one of those like personalities that makes you smile and feel good. And awesome.
I've had the opportunity to interview her a number of times on the radio over the years, and in fact, she's going to be on one of my up and coming podcasts as we continue our tribute to Wall of Chefs, and it's a great show. I love it, and the fact that in total you have 30 something chefs, although there's only a dozen on per episode, right?
Yeah, that's right. Just over 30 chefs that we kind of rotate through. So in every episode, you'll see familiar faces, but that combination of the 12 are different. Which has a huge impact on the show. I mean, you've seen it now, so you know that so many of the moments are the moments where the chefs are talking amongst themselves on the wall, stuff that I don't even know is happening, where they're exchanging recipes or techniques. So to have all those different backgrounds and ethnicities and cultures and, resumes sitting side by side, it's like, I'm just like with a pen and paper the whole time, like trying to copy everything down.
Yeah, it's got to be intimidating as I'll get out for the home chefs or the home cooks to bring forward their works in front of such an august group of people.
I've said it 100 times. I couldn't do it.
No.
If there ever is a special episode where I have to be behind one of those stations, man, I don't know if I could do it. The element you always hear about it, it's like, cooking in a competition environment is different once you're in it. It's true. And then add on the fact that you can feel those 24 eyeballs like just piercing through you. I really, really, really don't know if I could do it. And I make a great eggs Benny. I've got a great crowd pleaser to start the first.
I would be so intimidated. I would be thinking to myself, the smallest mistake I made in my mind, I would be magnifying it times 300-400.
What's your crowd pleaser, Ted? I mean, we're going to get you on the show eventually. What are you cooking in the first round?
I make a pretty good bolognese, to be honest with you, and that's and a stuffed boiled egg.
I mean, those are comfort classics.
They are comfort classics, and a bolognese is actually not an easy dish to make. You've been around so many great chefs, and you must have picked up a lot because you're not trained as a chef as many of them are. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you in the kitchen? Cooking. I mean, I
feel like I'm the perfect fit in the sense of, my role in a lot of ways on the show is to kind of be that conduit between the home cooks and the chefs. And I really feel like I'm a good fit because there are moments where I can lean to each side and feel like that's where I belong. Listen, I can comfortably say that I am out of my element with the wall. This is the country's best. The level, the expertise, the experience, it's at such a level that I can't even come close. I have been fortunate enough, though, to spend the last 5-6 years kind of submerged in this culinary world. And I've, like a sponge, just tried to absorb as much as I can. So there's little tricks and techniques and stuff when I'm cooking at home with my wife, Carrie. And she's like, something. I'm like, well, what we want to do is let that rest, because what's going to happen is the salt is going to burn it down and activate all those. Like, what just happened? I think I said something real. So it's soaking in there a little bit, but I'm not opening up a restaurant.
And I've talked to a couple of the chefs that have appeared, that do appear on the wall, about the amazement that they have experienced in watching some of these home cooks and realizing There are some really, really good cooks out there who don't do this for a living.
Yeah. And not just that, but, I think there's so many moments on a show like this that you can anticipate. You're like, oh, this is going to happen. And but there are moments that happen that you didn't see coming. Like the 3, 4, 5 times where there has been a move by a home cook that is so quirky and outlandish. And the entire wall is just like, this is a disaster. That's not how you make this ingredient. That's not how you treat it. I've never seen this technique. Cut to them eating it, and they're like, this is unbelievable. Why am I doing this 3-hour technique when you found a way to do it in 10 minutes and it's as good? I'm stealing this. And that moment, I'm always just like, that has to be so cool for a home cook, to have a Mark McEwen or, Rob Feeney or Miru Dalwala sit there and say to you, you've taught me something today. I didn't see that coming.
Now, conversely, when the thing is becoming a disaster in front of your own eyes as you're cooking this, you're thinking, I can hear everybody laughing and saying, what the hell is that guy doing there?
Well, yeah, and it's crazy because, listen, it's an intimate set. Wolfie's fired up.
Yes, say hi.
I get it. She wants a bottle. Look at that.
So do I.
Look at me multitasking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm impressed.
I'm sous vide fish over here at the same time. What were we talking about?
We're talking about the disastrous presentations that some of the chefs, some of the home cooks present, and that the chefs on the wall are looking down at you thinking, well, this person doesn't know what they're doing at all.
Yeah, and it's that's right. I was saying it's an intimate set, so there are moments where those little conversations on the wall, it's like I can see the home cook overhearing the concern or the worry that's happening with the wall and how that gets into their head. And listen, it's more than just being able to, figure out what to do with 3 recipes or 3 ingredients you weren't expecting. It's staying calm. It's staying collected. It's being able to take the feedback, but, not focus and kind of, just, be stuck on the criticisms. Like I said, I couldn't do it, Ted. I'm talking about it.
How many episodes are you scheduled to do for The Wall?
We just filmed 10 new episodes, which we're now a few into. Did you see last week's? I mean, I don't know when things are thing or whatever, but
I saw the episode where there was a tie.
How crazy was that?
It was great. I was so happy because I said good.
Yeah.
Because to me, I couldn't see how one was better than the other. I couldn't taste it. Obviously, I'm not there to taste. But I'm thinking, oh, really? How does one person lose this? And they didn't either. That was cool.
An amazing moment. I remember standing there at that deliberation and just it going. And we were going in circles and circles. And it was like, I don't think we can figure this out. The only way would be to split it. What? And that was a great moment. I couldn't wait to say the news. I remember standing there and delivering that, dramatic lead in. The whole time I was just like, this is going to be so cool.
I just felt it was really Canadian. It was a very Canadian television moment.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And people were like, bro, they both won the thing and this and that, whatever. It's like, you know what? What a beautiful moment. They both earned it. I'd say if you ask them, you got a 50% chance of going home with nothing. Would you rather split the 10? I would imagine everybody was pretty happy with the outcome.
Yeah. Let me just quickly go back because I'd rather talk more about the Wall of Chefs because it's happening. It's current. But again, Carnival Eats is still out there.
Yeah.
What was the weirdest thing that anybody ever prepared for you?
Oh, man. In the early seasons, I think the show was figuring itself out and we were still dabbling a little bit with those like those really out there, like not even social media foods, the ones that are like deep fried rattlesnake, which was like, Ted, if I wake up screaming with night terrors 3 times a year, 2 of them are related to that deep fried rattlesnake. It was disturbing. I remember I got to the table and they had already cut the head, tail, and skinned the snake. And the body is in a metal bowl. And I hit the bowl while we're doing prep and the thing moves. And I turned to the vendor and I was just like, I mean, is this like a mosquito or a fly? Like it's nerves firing off? He's like, yeah. But Ted, I'm not talking about like shaking. I'm talking about like the body was S-shaping in the.
Oh God!
You know what was happening there? So I start to freak out, think whatever. Anyways, in between the last shot, we're just getting ready for the big bite. I go over to the gentleman's grandmother, who's been running the booth for 60 years, and I leaned into her and I was like, what's the deal here? Like, is this going to be okay? And she was like, yeah. Are you kidding? I don't know. I'm not going to eat that stuff. And that was episode 2 of Carnival Eats, and I was like, this is going to be a wild ride.
Noah Cappe is my guest. He is the host of Wall of Chefs and Carnival Eats as well. I hate snakes, so I couldn't fathom. No, I just do that. Just gives me the willies. Yeah. Completely, because you're surrounded by these chefs and you have been for so many years. Have you ever considered, well, maybe this is something that I could do like part-time? Maybe I should do some studying in this. Maybe I should ask one of these chefs to take me on under their tutelage, and maybe I'll become a restaurateur one day.
You know what? I think my passion is eating, and I know that sounds funny, but hear me out in the sense of, I've always been so appreciative that the Food Network embraced me and brought me in to be a part of their family, because I think that there are foodies and people who have a passion and an understanding of food on the other side of the counter. You know what I mean? I'm not a person who necessarily can make it, but man, I can bite into it. I can tell you what works, what doesn't. I understand flavor. I understand, texture and all those elements that kind of make that bite and make those moments. So I'm so grateful that Food Network has kind of said, listen, here's a person who has an equal passion and love of food and an understanding of how it works. They're just real good at taking a bite and talking about it, as opposed to putting the ingredients together in the bowl and making it. And for that, I'm thankful. And I think people at home are thankful too, because I get so many messages about, it seems so real. It seems so genuine when you're on camera. And it's like, because it is. That is me. There's hardly any script. I mean, on Carnival Eats, there is 3 or 4 lines that I say, intros and outros, but all of those segments with the vendors, I show up. It's like, this is Jim. This is what you're making. Go. So it's a real moment, and you're seeing that kind of genuine, deep fried creation unfold.
So no, I mean, because of COVID, because of the pandemic, I mean, we haven't been socializing the way we have been in the past. But when that's not happening, when people are mixing, when you're going over to people's house for dinner, are people trying to impress you with their culinary abilities?
No, they're just trying to stack as many weird chocolate, pepperoni, bacon, deep fried elements in one. It's like, if I go to one more dinner and they're like, I think you're gonna like dessert, and it's like, fresh berries, because Papa needs some vitamins. No, it's like, look what we did. We deep fried a whole cake. It's like, thank you.
Smoked snake heads in Jell-O. Yeah, there you go. Well, I'm quite enjoying watching Wall of Chefs, and continuing to enjoy watching Carnival Eats, and look forward to anything that you do in the future, because you're a very entertaining guy and you're a very pleasant man, and I'm truly appreciative of you taking the time to chat with me today.
Ted, that was super nice, man. And listen, I'm gonna get you on Wall of Chefs. You don't have to butter me up with that lovely little outro. We'll get you on the show, man.
I'd be happy with a T-shirt, but thanks anyway.
I'm gonna eat that bolognese, Ted.
All righty, you got a deal. Take care. And thank you to all of you for tuning in and listening, and we hope that you'll join us again next week. And if you get a chance, drop by our website, www.tedwoloshin.ca, and there you will find a listing of all of our previous episodes. You can listen back to all of them. You can sign up and share your comments and thoughts with us. We would appreciate that. Also appreciate going online and check out the organ and tissue donation opportunities. You could change or even save a life. Have a great week.
The Ted Woloshyn podcast has been brought to you by Tom's Place. For the finest in men's clothing at unbeatable prices, it's Tom's Place at 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you. And ETP Canada, providing estate administration with ease. The Ted Wallachin Podcast is produced by me, Becky Coles. Technical production by Paul Gatt. Music by Bike Thieves. For more information on this podcast and our sponsors, and to talk to Ted, go to www.tedwallachin.ca.